Hi guys, welcome back. Today we'll be taking a look at some of the stocks listed in Hong Kong. Before we begin, remember to take a second to give the video a like and subscribe and still greatly help on the channel. Without further ado, let's first start off with the Hang Seng Index. So the Hang Seng Index managed to go back to its recent high of around 22.4k, but you can see that clearly very much like I had a double top here and started pulling back down. Key resistance to clear was 22447. Unfortunately, we only hit a recent high of 22449 before pulling back down. So the support to watch would be 21,749 and also 21,200. In the event that we do break up above this, then we're likely to be heading towards 23,000 and even potentially 23,592. Let's move on to the Hang Seng Tech Index. So the Hang Seng Tech Index started to trend back up. You can see that even the recent high here, we in fact already crossed this 62 at 61.8%. Unfortunately, we did not hit this 70.6% at 5242, and we started to pull back down. So ideally, previous resistance turn into support, and then we can continue to trend back up. The first support to watch would be 4842 and potentially 4609. This baseline is currently at 4549, so that will act as a pretty good support as well in the event that we do pull back to those levels. Let's move on to Tencent. So you can see that Tencent was significantly weaker, and we're essentially at our last support, closing below this 38.2%. And this on the way down, the cloud act as a pretty good support here. The cloud is thin, so do expect not very strong support on the way down. So the support levels to watch will be 344. And if we were to break that, then likely for us to revisit 325, where we see a lot of buyers stepping in at this level here. Let's move on to Alibaba. So 9988, as you can see, we very much had like a double top. So if we were to break out above this 121.3, then potentially we can go back up to 135. Support to watch would be 111 and even 104 and even the $100 psychological support level, where this baseline acts as a strong support. Let's move on to Meituan. So Meituan, not much of a change. You can see that it's consolidating sideways, and the support to watch will be 194, which is what we closed on Friday itself, or Thursday rather, and also looking at this $180 psychological support where it coincides with this 61.8%. If we were to punch up above 211, then we're likely to face 212 before retesting the recent high of 242. Let's move on to NetEase. So NetEase, after its bad news, it started to fall back down, and you can clearly see that it actually tested this rate baseline before pulling back down once again. So it seems like there was a very strong struggle at this rate baseline. So the cloud is currently acting as a pretty good support for NetEase. In the event that we do punch up, then we're likely to be looking towards this resistance here at 154 and 158, which is the key resistance for NetEase to break up in order to continue its uptrend. Let's move on to NIO. So NIO, you can clearly see that it actually revisited its all-time highs, but there seems to be a double top pattern here, and we started to pull back down quite sharply. So it seems that the support levels to be watching will be 178.1, which was already broken through, and also a stronger support at 61.8% at around 161, where we were actually revisiting these levels here. If you were to break down further, then 156 will be a strong support, as well as the $150 psychological support for NIO or 9866. Let's move on to JD. So JD seems to be consolidating sideways as well. We actually break out above 78.6% at 265, but we closed the day at around 265. And started to see some minor profit taking and started to sell off a little. So the next support to watch will be 242 and even 232, acting as a pretty strong support for 9618. If we were to punch up, then 286 would be our next potential target, with 275 as a potential short-term resistance. Let's move on to 9888 or Baidu. So you can see that there was very much like a recent breakout of here of the recent high of 151.3, and we closed the week at around $3 just below the resistance at around 148. So if we were to punch up above 151, then we're looking towards 165 as a potential near-term target. If we were to pull back down, then 145 is a potential support with 142 as the next support here. Of course, this 134 here, this rate baseline is pretty far away, so this will act as a pretty strong support in the event that Baidu were to retrace back to those levels. Let's move on to AIA or 1299. So you can clearly see that 1299 has started to break out above this recent high here, and we see 4 days of continuous buying pressure. So that is a good sign. Unfortunately, at 78.6%, there was some resistance. So it is 1299 or AIA started to pull back down. So ideally, previous resistance turned into support, and hopefully we can find some good support at 84.50 and even 82.85. This baseline is currently at $81. So this 81 to 82 acts a very strong support for AIA. Let's move on to PingAn. So PingAn, as you can see, we started to trend back up stronger after we actually hit this 61.8% and cleared it successfully. So you can see now that previous resistance here has now turned into good support. And ideally, we shouldn't break this down. If we were to start breaking down, then we're looking at around 52, 80.28, and even potentially 50.35 above the $50 psychological support levels, and even 51.40 as a potential support for PingAn. The immediate resistance to clear will be 55.15, and potentially, and hopefully, we can go back to retest the high of 57.70 here. Lastly, let's move on to Xiaomi Corporation. So Xiaomi Corporation did pretty well here. You can see that this is a very good and strong volume. And clearly you can see that this is very much like a very nice wave pattern here, where we are forming higher lows here and even higher lows here. So the trend is back up. And if you will pull back down, then hopefully we can continue to trend up higher. So the key resistance to watch, which was rejected off the other day, was 1436. And you can see there's some pressure here and we hit a high of 1454 before pulling back down. So if you were able to cross this 1436 and even potentially 1454, then 1548 will be our next target for Xiaomi Corporation. If you were to pull back down, then 1292 and 1242 is a pretty strong support for Xiaomi. So as of now, the stocks seems to be consolidating sideways, and you can see that even the Hang Seng Index or even the Hang Seng Tech Index is even testing its recent high or even breaking out above its recent high. So as of now, it looks quite good, and hopefully we can continue our momentum next week. So if there's any changes, I'll give you guys an update. Thanks for stopping by. Till we meet again, appreciate the manipulation.